Rachel Reeves still under pressure at the moment. We're hearing from all sorts of people that say that, the economy is going from bad to worse every single day. She's now facing a £5.5 billion debt time bomb with regard to car loans. Also, of course, Jonathan Reynolds, accused of lying, pretending to be a solicitor, still sitting there as the Secretary of State for Business, despite the fact that he faked his CV and he actually admitted in public, in Parliament, that he was a solicitor when it turns out he wasn't. Now Angela Rayner's past is being questioned. Her CV is not exactly what it was meant to be either when it comes to the truth. She says that she was a care worker at home, in home care, but it's not clear how many years she did that for and how long she worked for the council in Stockport. Let's talk to the head of campaigns at Popular Conservatism, Andrew Allison. Andrew, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Good to talk to you. The Labour government seems to go from bad to worse, but it seems to survive things that would have crippled other governments. I mean, they've now got Jonathan Reynolds, who's a self-confessed liar. They've got Rachel Reeves, who's at the very least a self-confessed exaggerator. And now we've got Angela Rayner, who's had some trouble in the past with her, 2 houses, 1 house, whatever it was. There are now questions about her CV. I mean, how much more does it need for these people to lose their jobs?
It's a very good question, because you're quite right. If there had been Conservative ministers in the past who have been lying or exaggerating, then I think the whole media would have been after them. The BBC would have been after them, The Guardian, or all the rest of it. But these Labour ministers appear to be getting a free pass. I mean, you're right about Rachel Reeves. She's just a Walter Mitty type. I mean, I don't believe a word that comes out of her mouth.
No.
But Jonathan Reynolds stood up in the House of Commons not long after he was elected. You've been showing the clips this morning, Mike. Yeah. And he said he was a solicitor, and he wasn't a solicitor. So he has lied. Right. I mean, he's lied to Parliament. He's probably lied to his constituents. So he should not be in his job. He should be fired. So why isn't Starmer firing him? That's the question.
It's an important thing to lie about, isn't it? I mean, in a way, Rachel Reeves sort of exaggerating her role at the Bank of England and making out that she was a big player when she clearly wasn't, making out that she was an economist who worked at the HBOS organisation when she didn't really do that either. It's sort of less, I would say, egregious than actually faking the fact that you're a solicitor. It's just like faking the fact that you're a doctor or a barrister or a pilot or something.
I agree completely. It is much more serious. Rachel Reeves said that she worked for the best part of a decade, but it was half of that time. I think she was in charge of customer complaints at one point.
That's right.
Mike, for HBOS, she's exaggerated her CV. It doesn't look very good, and I think she's lost all credibility. But this is much more serious, because you say it is like saying, well, I'm a doctor, I'm a barrister, I'm a solicitor, I'm a police officer. These are people that you trust and trust to do a professional job. And clearly, he's not a solicitor, so he should go.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let me play a clip from Nigel Farage. He was over in America at CPAC yesterday. Here he is talking about the next election.
I am now leading, and in historical terms, this is incredible. I am now leading Reform UK, and we are now topping every opinion poll in Britain. And we are going to win the next general election and save our country. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Nigel Farage pretty sure he's going to win the next election. What does that mean for the Conservative Party, Andrew?
If you look at the current opinion polls, the three parties are more or less in a three-way tie. They're all in the sort of the mid-20s%. There are times when Reform tops them, and lately the Reform has been topping them. Other times Labour's been slightly ahead. There's been the odd poll that puts the Conservative Party ahead. All I will say is that we're around 4 years away from a general election, and anything can happen in 4 years. If a week is a long time in politics, I don't know how you would describe 4 years. Right. But there is no doubt that Reform is doing very well. And I think that the Kemi needs to be maybe just a little bit more bolshy, if I may say that. A little bit.
Well, also the Conservatives. I mean, the Popular Conservatism is thought to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, more about the right wing of the Conservative Party, people who actually are what I would call proper Conservatives. But the problem for the Conservative Party is that it's not got enough of those people, has it?
There's certainly enough people around as members of the country, as far as the parliamentary party is concerned. Well, the parliamentary party, I think, has always been more to the left of the voluntary party. That's an open secret. All I'm saying is I think Kemi needs to put out more conservative positions. We don't need detailed policies at the moment, but we certainly need many more proper conservative positions, because I have no doubt that she is a proper conservative. I mean, she ideologically, principally, you can see that she's a conservative, and more than most of her predecessors.
But is she cutting through to the people? Because a lot of the people that listen to this show and watch this show, a lot of people in the country feel that, you know, the Conservatives and the Labour Party are both, you know, two cheeks of the same backside. They've let them down. You know, the Tories had 14 years in power, and they wasted it, really, at the end of the day. The Labour government's worse than they could ever have dreamed possible. And for them, reform is really the only look of salvation.
The Conservative Party rightly received a shellacking on the 4th of July last year, Mike. It was 14 years that, with very little to show for it. So we had some good education reforms that came out of Michael Gove, but very little to show for it in general. So the Conservative Party has to show that it is under new management, that it is different, that it's adopting proper conservative positions. I mean, I'm an unashamed Thatcherite. That's where I come from inside the party, and yet some people regard people like me, and they would even regard Margaret Thatcher, if she was still around, as some form of right-wing extremist. Yeah. Well, I don't think those people are particularly conservative in their outlook. They need to look at themselves. But I just want Kemi just to go on the front foot a lot more. She's only been in since the beginning of November, wasn't it? It was just before Donald Trump was elected as US president. Yeah. So it is early days at the moment, and she does have quite a while to go. So she must have her feet under the table now. She now just needs to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have been critical of her performance, particularly at Prime Minister's questions. Do you think she could get better at that?
Of course she can. When Margaret Thatcher became leader of the opposition, just over 50 years ago, we celebrated that anniversary last week.
God, don't remind me. It makes you feel very old, that, when you tell me that.
I know. I can't quite remember that, because I'm not quite as old as you, Mike. But, you know, when you start remembering events in the late 70s, you realise you are starting to get on a little bit.
Shocking.
But Jim Callaghan used to knock her around the park in those early days, but she got better at it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing. So Kemi will get better at that.
So do you say then that you think there is still hope for the Conservative Party, that there is a chance that they will get back into government? Because a lot of people tell me, you know, there's no chance of that happening, and if reform continue on the current sort of trajectory that they're on, at the very least what they'll do is split the vote, and they could get as many as 110 or 120 seats in Parliament, which would make it pretty much impossible for anybody to become the overall outstanding, you know, kind of majority.
There's a couple of points to make there. I mean, the Conservative Party's been written off in the past. It was written off in 1987. After those disastrous European Parliament elections under Theresa May in 29, it was getting written off. And it does have an ability to bounce back again. Regarding the splitting of the vote, I mean, that is a worry. And of course, Kemi says that she won't work with Nigel, and Nigel says that he won't work with Kemi. But if the two parties are still battling against each other, if the vote on the right is still getting split in 3 years' time, I think minds will be focused, because we all know what will happen if that vote remains split. Labour will get another 5 years, and neither Reform nor Conservative voters want that.
No, exactly right. Good to talk to you, Andrew. Thanks very much indeed. Andrew Allison, Head of Campaigns at Popular Conservatism.